Hey everyone, I'm Kevin with Victory 4x4. Today in the garage we're going to be installing this engine cover on our 2024 Toyota Tacoma. So to get started here, we have our two-piece engine cover along with the 3 mounting brackets, a little bit of hardware, and just a couple tools that you need to get it installed. Now the first and probably easiest part of this whole process is just assembling the two sections of the cover. So the center section you see here has pre-installed nuts on the back side at all 5 mounting locations. We'll then take this, slide it in underneath, and then you just have to line up those 5 holes. In those you'll be installing the shorter of the 2 1/4-inch button head bolts along with washers. We'll go ahead and just start all of these by hand before we tighten anything up. With all 5 of those bolts started, you'll need a 5/32 hex to tighten them up. From here we can move on to installing the 3 mounting brackets up on the truck, but while we have everything on the cart, we just want to kind of give you a general idea of where they're going to go and how they install to the cover. So all 3 again are going to have a pre-installed nut on the cover mounting side, and that's going to get the remaining 1/4-20 by 3/4 long button head bolts. For example, this one out here is the rear passenger side mount, so you can kind of get a look at that. And again, we'll show all these in detail on the truck as well. You have the front mount here, which is going to mount in this hole out on that front flange, and then the driver's side mount, which is going to have 2 mounting holes down on the engine side, and again 1 up here on the cover. So starting out with that driver's side bracket over here on the driver's side of the engine, you're going to come just behind the engine oil dipstick and look for the black mounting bracket. It's actually part of this coolant hose down here. It's got 2 bolts holding it in place that need to be removed with your 10mm socket. From here you can take your bracket and those factory mounting bolts. You'll kind of slip this down inside of the radiator hose bracket there and get both of these bolts started by hand. From here you just want to kind of hand tighten both of these bolts so that the bracket is somewhat located and held in place, and then we'll leave all of this mounting hardware loose until the cover is actually installed. Moving now to our front mounting bracket, you're going to need to switch to an 8mm socket, and the bolt you have to remove is down in here, kind of holding this black wire harness bracket just behind your coolant overflow reservoir, obviously on the front of the engine. So we'll go ahead and remove that, kind of just using caution not to drop anything here down into the engine bay. With the bolt removed, you'll take your bracket with the angled upper mounting tab facing back toward the rear of the vehicle. You'll then slide this in behind the wire harness here between it and the engine, and then behind the mounting bracket down here as well. And you can then feed that factory bolt back through and thread it back in place. Now just like on the previous bracket, we're going to just kind of finger tight here so that we have some adjustability there, and then we'll move on to our passenger side bracket. Now your passenger side bracket is going to kind of angle forward when mounted properly. It's going to bolt in place on this kind of protruding aluminum boss here toward the back of the engine on the passenger side. You'll need to feed the bracket down between this wire harness and vacuum hose up here, and then line it up with the forward threaded hole there and install the provided M8 button head bolt. Again, we'll run this all the way down, kind of hand tight for now. Now if you push this one in tight, you can be pretty confident in its position. You'll then need a 5mm hex to tighten that button head bolt, securing this bracket in place. And we can now grab our engine cover and start bolting it down. So you can set the cover in place on top of your mounts, and since we've already tightened up that passenger side rear mount, that's where we're going to start with our first bolt. Again, you should only have 3/4-inch bolts left at this point. You can just line that up and start this by hand. So leaving that loose, you can just grab your next bolt and work your way around, getting all of these lined up and started, kind of manipulating the cover and the brackets as needed by reaching underneath. Once you have all 3 of your top mounting fasteners started, come back with your 5/32 hex and tighten them in place. Once you have that top hardware tight, you'll just need to come back and tighten up the front mounting bolt up here with your 8mm socket and the 2 out on this driver's side with your 10mm. And then it's always a good idea to just come back with your 5mm hex and check that passenger side bracket as well. Once you have that mounting hardware tight, you've now got a great looking engine cover installed. Just be sure, as with any aftermarket accessory, to come back and double check all your mounting hardware after you put a few road miles on it. And as always, if you guys have any questions at all for us, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can always send us an email at info@victory4x4.com or call us at 269-459-8447.